Travis W. Reed is
Hey, everybody, it's Eric alongside Rod. We're here with our new friend, Travis Reed, a former UCLA Bruin and a current podcaster. Travis played for the Bruins around the turn of the century and was a center power forward. I shouldn't say turn of the century. It makes us feel really old. Played ultimately 10 years overseas after his time at UCLA and Long Beach State. He won various league and playoff MVPs during his time in Europe and Australia. Travis Reed has started a podcast called Travis Reed, A Basketball Life, which is currently available on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Podbean. Also has a YouTube show, which is called An Athlete's Journey. The show showcases not only his journey, but several other athletes who have shared their stories, lessons, and some of the adventures and transitions of their journey as an athlete. Right now, Travis has two podcasts on the Bleav network, that's Bleav, called Bleav on UCLA and An Athlete's Journey. Both can be found basically wherever you find podcasts. So, Travis, thanks so much for joining us on the Final Four is Not on the Schedule.
Thank you. No, appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, our pleasure. Before we begin, just like to thank new Patreon supporter Daniel Drynak at the Draymond Green level. A reminder that we will be having a supporters in-person dinner for those who support the show at the Draymond Green level or above on Patreon or Substack. Invites go out sometime around the end of May, so there's still time to sign up to support the show if you're interested at the Final Four is Not on the Schedule.com/support. Where it will be is undetermined, and it's just sometime in the summer in the Lansing area. So anyway, I'm going to let Rod launch us and head us out for the show.
Okay, great. Thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate it. As you're able to give us a unique perspective, because you're not just someone who does a podcast on UCLA basketball, you're an alum and a former player in the program. So I've got to start with the most obvious question, which is how you feel about the end of the Pac-12.
Honestly, I would say sadness, I think the Pac-12 was, well, back then when I played, it was the Pac-10.
Right.
But it was pretty much one of the most, I thought one of the best, if not, it's one of the best, if not the best conferences in college basketball with a whole lot of tradition. Obviously, UCLA's tradition goes without saying. But I mean, look at Arizona's tradition. Look at, USC's tradition. Why, like all the schools had its own time of being great. So I ain't gonna lie, like it was a sad time last year, realizing that essentially money in football kind of just switched it to where, we're going to the Big 18. What is it? Yeah, 18.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll always be the Big 10.
Yeah. And I think, we feel largely the same way. One of the things that's very obvious about all this conference realignment stuff is that it's driven by football, as you say, and as a result of football, by money. You look at how it's going to be with regard to basketball, and it seems to me like the traditional Big Ten schools have to go out west to some extent. So people in our fan base and other traditional Big Ten fan bases talk about that. But to me, it seems like you guys, USC, Oregon, and Washington are really going to feel the brunt of it, because you got to come east far more than the Eastern schools have to go west. And just with the number of games that are involved in basketball, that alone, the travel is going to be crazy. Can you imagine what that would have been like when you were a player having to play in a conference like this?
No, I mean, I'm essentially thinking that they're going to have tutors and teachers on the road with them at all times.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to stay out there for a week, maybe a couple weeks. Let's just say you go on the East Coast trip, you got to go to Maryland, Michigan State, maybe Penn State, all in, maybe they try to put it all in a row where you knock out the road games, you're essentially a professional athlete now.
Right.
When we would go to Washington and Washington State, Washington was really nice, but Washington State was in Pullman, Washington, which was nothing. And so like after like a week, or like say Thursday to Sunday, by the time we get back, we're tired, we're exhausted. you know? So imagine the kids now that got to go a 6-hour flight to Rutgers or Penn State or
Yep.
Michigan. Whatever. It's going to be interesting to see what happens because football is once a week. You can, recover, recoup.
Right.
Basketball, you're going to have to play multiple games at a time on the road, and I think
Yeah.
that's going to be tough for an 18-year-old kid.
Yeah, that's been our thinking as well. That, as you said, we're really starting to get into the territory where it's almost like you're in the NBA with the kind of travel that's involved. It's crazy. So obviously, I can't even imagine what it would be like to be an alum of a school that, where you're in a conference for as long as UCLA has been part of the Pac 8, 10, 12, whatever it was, and to have that conference just disintegrate. It's got to be an awful feeling in a lot of ways. But is there anything about joining the Big Ten that's interesting to you or exciting to you, looking at it, having been on the outside looking in?
Oh, definitely. Look, I mean, as far as football wise, think about the lineups. I mean,
Yeah.
you got USC and Michigan, like not just in the Rose Bowl, but like every year. USC, Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Oregon, Ohio. I mean, Washington, like I don't know how Washington's gonna be now with the coach leaving, but football wise, it'll be sensational. And I think about as far as basketball, like you got UCLA, Michigan State, UCLA, Michigan, like it's some intriguing matchups that you get to see, that you don't see very often. And for myself, that intrigues me. As far as like if I had anything to look forward to, is those, especially the football matchups. But like, those matchups in basketball where you're going East Coast and you see a different kind of physicality in the Big Ten than you might see in the Pac-12. You
Yeah.
see a different kind of, it's just a different level of basketball. So
Do you, one more quick part of this, do you think that it may make a difference in terms of recruiting to some extent? Because I've seen it talked about in Big Ten circles that, well, now that you've got these schools in Southern California, especially, that may open up Southern California talent more to the traditional Big Ten schools. Do you think it may go the other way as well, that you might see UCLA, USC kind of recruiting Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, these states a little bit more than they have in the past?
you have to, I think. I think you gotta go recruit. I think you have to recruit in conference. Always felt that way. I'll give you a perfect example in the Pac. I know it's smaller, but in the Pac-10, Pac-12, Oregon always recruits California. Same with Arizona.
Right.
Um, Same with Washington. They all come to California to get prospects. So I think it's going to be the same as far as California going to all these other places to get players. I think football is more, it's open anyway. You're going to get players
Right.
from all over. No, SC is going to get guys from Florida, Tennessee, wherever, Nebraska, all these schools. Now, for UCLA, I think they have to recruit in Michigan and like you said, Indiana and all these Pennsylvania and all these places to where you can say like, look, you'll be on the West Coast, but you do get to come home and play,
Right.
these schools. So yeah, I think, would you rather be in the freezing Michigan cold or Ohio State, Ohio cold, or you want to come to sunny California and
Yeah.
be able to play basketball, football?
I'm not sure we like that pitch, but I hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I'll just have you know that 2 days ago I was at a golf match and it was snowing for my son in high school. So yeah, it's mid-April. So yeah, we do have that. But now it's 60, it's like 50 degrees. That's like a dead of winter for you, right? Pretty much in Southern California.
Yeah, no, since it's 85 degrees today in California. So yeah. If I'm a pitcher, I'm just pitching that to these Midwest kids that ain't really been a good sun.
That's right. So that kind of was just the next question. So you said obviously it's a long tradition. It's one of the true blue bloods, start from the Wooden era. What's it like playing there? I mean, is there a lot of extra pressure? Do you feel extra pressure as a UCLA player dealing with that sort of thing? Or, I mean, how is it because, compared to like the average school, I guess it's it.
Well, I would say UCLA, like you said, is the true blue blood, and you always want to live up to the expectation of what UCLA is. I mean, obviously, when I went to high school, college a long time ago, but John Wooden would come to our practices,
Whoa.
and so like he would come watch us practice and talk to us, and like he knew everybody by name, and just shook everybody's hands. I'm like, I would tell you this: my father was so in awe of John Wooden. I remember he passed me, went straight to John Wooden to shake his hand because he was, he was such a fan of John Wooden and a fan of the 10 period, pyramid of success and all that. So we would walk around campus and see, Bill Walton and obviously, Mr. Jamal Wilkes, Gail Goodrich, all these Hall of Fame players. And so like I always wanted to look up and represent them because like you feel, I don't know how every player felt, but I felt as me that I was playing for something much bigger than myself, which was UCLA. And it was so like it was an honor to play there, like
Yeah.
it was for me being a California kid. I grew up UCLA. I've always wanted to go to UCLA. It was an honor. Like there wasn't. I never wanted not to play UCLA. I knew if they recruited me, and I had a lot of schools recruiting me. I knew if UCLA recruited me, there was no choice.
Yeah. Well,
And
that kind of, that reminds, with Michigan State always talks about the family atmosphere and sort of it's sort of Tom Izzo's been around for a million years now. His players come back all the time. Is it sort of like that at UCLA? Is there you mentioned a couple of notables walking around. Is that pretty common to have former players and a big community, tight community stay in contact with each other?
definitely, definitely. Look, I went to UCLA and I went to Long Beach State. I finished and graduated from Long Beach State, but to tell you the truth, I'm always around UCLA guys just because it's like a brotherhood. Uh, you know, in my podcast, Bleav UCLA, my assistant or my co-host is TJ Cummings,
Yeah.
who graduated after me at UCLA, real good friend. So, and I've had, Charles Abandon on my show, An Athlete Journey, Chris Johnson, Tracy Murray, Ray Young. I've had multiple guys that, from that brotherhood of UCLA that I've always, like, and whenever I see them, it's always like, hey Travis, hey, so and so, how you doing? Because it's like a brotherhood there. Um, so and we bring our kids now, so they see that tradition of the
Mhm.
UCLA and maybe the future of UCLA. So it's for me it's always a exciting and liberating experience because I love UCLA. I always have and always will.
So turning to the present program at UCLA, when the Bruins hired Mick Cronin, it it seemed to me, to be quite honest, it wasn't a choice I saw coming. Because when I think of UCLA basketball, I think of those blue uniforms, and I think of fast breaks and up tempo basketball and style and all of that stuff. And Mick Cronin had a reputation when he was at Cincinnati of very physical, defense oriented teams. It seemed a little strange. Um, but he had that Final Four run coming from the play-in game where he beat a team that's near and dear to our heart to get that run started, which was not a lot of fun. But he's had some success. And then he followed it up with, the next year they were expected to be good. And though they didn't have quite the same tournament run, they had a strong regular season, mostly made good on their potential. how do you think the fan base feels about him now that he's been there a few years? Have they embraced him? Do you think it still feels kind of iffy, or where does it sit as they're entering a new league?
Well, I think the fan base is happy with him. I Bleav. I mean, now the question is about college. Is like, can you recruit?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because it has to be about recruiting. Because pretty much the Final Four run, the two Sweet 16 runs, obviously the Pac-12 championship and all that stuff. That's all. Like that was all with the previous coach's talent.
Right.
Now he might have got the best out of Jaime Hawkins and Tiger Campbell and Jules Bernard and all these guys, but essentially it was the previous coach's talent. It was
Yeah.
I can't even think of his name, but he was a
Alford.
senator. Oh yeah, Alford's talent. Now,
Yeah.
obviously he recruited in Amari Bailey and he recruited in Peyton Watson, and obviously they both did one and done and went to the NBA. But I think that we got to see if Cronen's a great coach, but can he recruit? That you have to get in the talent in order to win. It's essential um, in today's game. And I thought this past year, he had lost so much. He lost like 7 guys last year who was big contributors. Bo was the only one that really played last year that came back. So this year was a transition year, his first transition year since the beginning.
Right.
And I think with UCLA, like we're not patient. We're kind of like those, if you want to say Dallas Cowboy fans or
Right.
Laker fans, like we're not patient when it comes to losing. We will not accept, uh, mediocre seasons and not making it to the tournament and things like that, no matter who it is. I think you mentioned how tough basketball. Ben Holland was the same way.
Sure.
Ben Holland came in, we thought fast break, and he was kind of like, okay, let's see what he can do. And he went to 3 Final Fours in a row, had multiple NBA guys, Westbrook, Kevin Love, to name a couple. But then when he started losing, he was like, all right, what's next? So we don't we're one of those blue blood schools that the pressure is an expectation is just comes with the job. And so I hope that like he understands. I know he understands it, and he understands like I got to recruit just as well as I got to coach.
Yeah, and that kind of, it's an interesting thing for us as MSU people. The last 4 years since COVID for Michigan State, they've all been tournament years. Went to one Sweet 16. They've had some high points, but nothing meeting the standards that Tom Izzo's set for most of his career. And the fan base reaction has just been, if I say so myself, it's been terrible. The level
Mm.
of entitlement, the level of ridiculous. Our podcast is named "The Final Four is not on the schedule" for a reason. It's a Tom Izzo quote. It says, sometimes people think it's actually on the schedule, like you just end up there, and we all know it's not quite that easy. But is the UCLA? You said that just now that the fan base doesn't have much patience, it sounds like. So that's still the case there. That's never been tempered really, even with, being decades since Wooden won whatever it was, 8 in a row, 9 in a row. It's still that same level where it's what have you done for me today that counts and everything else doesn't matter.
Yes, I think that's like like you were talking about, like you said with Michigan State. Obviously, they've still been winning, but they're not been winning to the level he's won before.
Right.
And I give the perfect example of Calipari.
Yep.
Calipari was getting, basically the number one picks, in his first 5 years at Kentucky was unheard of in a way. It was like 4 Final Fours in 5 years, won a national championship, had multiple number one picks. Uh, I thought the best team he had at Kentucky didn't win the championship, which was that Karl Anthony Towns, Devin
Yep.
Booker team that was
Yeah.
38-0 and lost to the Final Four. Those 2 years, when the year before he had Randall, they went to the national championship game and lost to UConn. I just think that like sometimes that gives like you said, the fans entitlement to think that going to the Final Four and all this stuff is just so easy, and
Right.
it's not the case. And like UCLA, they've won one national championship since Wooden retired. But yeah, we consider ourselves the bluest of the blue bloods, because we have the most national championships, by a mile.
Right.
And so I think that we always feel with ourselves who we are as a school that we need to be in the national championship. Maybe not win it every year, but like be in that discussion and
Yeah.
getting the top players. And to be honest with you, we haven't been getting the top players in the state, even in our own state of California over the last couple of years. We've been getting good players, yes, but the best players have been leaving the state to go to different places. I give a perfect example. A friend of mine, his Deshaun Bryant. His son is I was going to say his son, his last name is Bryant. He was a McDonald's All-American this year.
Mhm.
He's going to Arizona. And I asked him a question, about UCLA. They said, nah, it really wasn't on my list. And I was like, you're a McDonald's All-American from California, and UCLA's not even on your list? And, and that's the problem that I think that we have to address. Coach going to have to address, and only the way to address it is to win, essentially, I
Right.
think.
But just as a side note on, you mentioned John Calipari. I don't know if you had seen it in this whole deal where he opted to leave Kentucky and he went to Arkansas. I Bleav it came out in an interview somewhere where he mentioned that he should have taken the UCLA job when that was offered a few years ago, where it ended up that Mick Cronin took it. I don't know if you were aware of that, but what are your? I
Oh,
would
we
suspect
were.
that would have changed things in the recruiting game. I suspect.
Oh no, I think the amount of what Calipari does and the amount of like UCLA definitely. I mean, like Nick Cronin was. If you want to say, don't get me wrong, he's a great coach in what he's done. But he was probably like our fourth choice.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I think at some points they were looking at. They looked at Rick Pitino. At some points, that obviously they were really after Calipari. That was the big splashy name that we were talking about. And obviously, Calipari ended up staying at Kentucky, signing that lifetime deal or whatever.
Right.
And I think that with Calipari, we definitely would have been getting the top players. Maybe we would have won, maybe not. I don't know, but like. I think some fan bases, like you said, just have sometimes a little bit unrealistic expectations because I just feel like it's a crapshoot. I mean, look at UConn. UConn has won back to back these last couple of years, but they was down. You
Yeah.
know, they I don't even know like they was they had Kevin Ollie, he won a championship, and then they weren't even making the tournament. For years and
Right.
years on end, and now they
Right.
bring in the coach, and all of a sudden, boom, they're back, back to back champs. So I just think that like it just all, it's just all like ebbs and flows of basketball and of life.
Yeah. There's certainly a lot of chance involved in all those decisions and sort of, who's available for his years. And I probably should do a couple live reads. So just speaking about various luck, make sure you don't pressure luck and make sure you take care of your gutters. The Brothers Adjusted Gutters take care of you if you're on the west side or the east side of the state of Michigan. 10% off your estimate if you contact them. They'll replace, repair, or clean out your gutters. Also, the Christian Brothers Automotive, don't take a chance with your car. Make sure you maintain it. They have their new special now for listeners of this show. If you mention hoops when you go in, you get $40 off your oil change, battery inspection, and tire rotation. All right. So, Travis, let's talk about the UCLA, their roster right now. It is, I guess you could say it's an insane portal season, even more than last year. What does the UCLA look like right now? What are their? I mean, I know the portal's not even closed yet, so we don't really know everything that people are going to be in there. But how are things looking for UCLA coming into next year when they enter the Big Ten?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. They just lost Boa to the NBA. They lost some players to transfer portal, but they did. He's kept a couple of European players. His backcourt is coming back. He actually got Sky Clark from Louisville coming in
Oh yeah.
yeah, in the fold. I think he's going to really like. Coach Cronin knows the expectation UCLA is to win, and last year was unacceptable, in his eyes and UCLA's eyes. So I know that he was going to be heavy in the transfer portal to get players to help him win right away, his kind of players. And he's not going to accept the losing, If players like he felt like this year the players wasn't as tough as what they should be. But I mean I can't knock it because they were all new players.
Yeah. Right.
And so I think UCLA has a good shot. I think in the Big Ten next year. You figure Purdue is going to go down because they're losing, Zach Edey, and
Yep.
they're not going to be as dominant as have they been. Michigan State's going to be Michigan State. I think Illinois will probably, head on down. They'll be losing some players to the NBA.
And the portal.
And the portal, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's going to be, interesting to see. I think it's going to be a wide open, Big Eight, Big Ten this year because I don't really know who. I think Michigan State's going to. They got them in the way too early. I think they're top 10 or top.
Yeah, top 5 last year. That didn't work out. So yeah.
So I know. So we'll see what happens. I think
Yeah.
UCLA they got them in the way too early, like number 16 or 17, in the way too early, top 25. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think it's going to be, a little bit more balanced. I don't think it's going to be one team dominating the league, as Purdue has done the last years.
Yeah, that's pretty unusual for the Big Ten. Going back to the transfer portal, I mean, what would it have been like for you personally had this portal been, would you, I guess, how do you think it would have been for you as a player? And because I think, I think we all look at this and we'll talk in a moment, but I think, this is unsustainable how the system is going to change. But right now, I mean, what would it have been like for you as a player with the transfer portal?
Well, for me, when I transferred, I had to sit out a whole year,
Right.
Right.
And like I think a lot of players been like, I transferred, but like I don't know. You have to be really dedicated to transfer back then when I transferred because like you basically miss. You have to practice for a year, with
Yeah.
off. I think for myself, the transfer portal would have helped and hindered. For myself, it would have helped. I think because then I would have just been like, all right, like coach, you ain't rocking with me. All right, I gave it 2 years. I'm out. Let's go move to the to another school where where they appreciate me and what I do. And I think here's what I'll be honest with you guys. Like I think with the NIL deals and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of players, like that's why they move around to school to school to school because like, oh,
Yeah.
I make $500,000 here, I can make a $2 million here, I can make $3 million here, or whatever. So I don't think it would have been like hop, 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 but I think that for myself, it would have. You could tell that, like I was loyal to UCLA. I might have left a year early rather than stay the extra year.
Sure.
Gotcha.
How is it NIL situation at UCLA? I mean, it's so nebulous. I don't know how who's good, right? It's a fan unless there's not like a money amount that you can see because it's all third party, right? It's coming from outside. But what is the situation at UCLA? Are they going to lose players or be able to keep their roster? As far as can they pay players? I guess is the way to put it.
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm a former player, so I'm always pay to play.
Yeah,
That's
right.
right. So I'm like when I was at UCLA, we sold out every game. It was 17,000 people usually every home game. So like the school made tons of money off of us. Like if your school makes it
Yeah.
to the tournament, school gets $5 million, and every couple rounds they get 5, 10, da da da. But I think, with the money and how it is now, like they pay their players. They don't really pay incoming players like that, but they, like the top guys on the basketball team, they was definitely getting, some nice coin. Jaime Hawkins was getting a lot of money because he was a Hispanic player, and so like you get money. Like I said, you can get good, because UCLA has their alumni is insane, when it
Yeah.
comes to
So they
booster,
have support, right? Yeah.
they
Okay.
have support, so like, uh, don't get me wrong, like I would still probably say, as far as basketball, Kentucky probably pays the most, you know,
Hmm.
or they can pay the most. I don't know about now, but Kentucky and Duke, North Carolina, those kind of schools, they're up there too. But even SC, um, but I think that UCLA has the means to do that. Once you've proven yourself, they just don't give like the incoming guys, $1 million or whatever the case is.
Right.
You have to
Yeah.
earn your NIL money up there.
But I think that's my impression has been that's the case at a lot of places. Like it seems that the really big money is for those high profile portal guys. Somebody like Hunter Dickinson deciding to go to Kansas last year.
Yep,
That
yep.
kind of guy. Okay, maybe you're going to pay him. Or there was talk this year. I don't know if I believe it or not that the kid from Arizona, the big man who just just
Oh,
transferred to
Diablo.
Indiana. Yeah, supposedly 1.2 million was the asking price. Now
Hmm.
I know, I've seen some back and forth as to whether he actually got that from Indiana, but it seems like it's those guys and the high school players, even McDonald's All-Americans aren't necessarily getting that kind of money yet. You got to prove it first.
Yes, yeah. I don't think there's any high school player that's getting $1 million. I think that like you said, like Jaime was a senior, and I don't know, like this is hearsay, so I don't want to quote me or whatever. But let's just say he was getting 700, thousand.
Right.
I don't know for sure. Obviously, I wasn't counting his pockets, but something like that. But
Yeah,
you
and
know,
it's been the same thing at Michigan State when they brought back Tyson Walker and Malik Call last year. It was the same kind of thing, where those guys were supposedly getting several hundred thousand to stick around and do their fifth year at MSU rather than hit the portal. So
right.
that's been my impression. That's where the real money action is. It's
Yeah.
it's those guys with experience.
Well, if you look at the highest paid overall in college, right? None of them are freshmen. You know,
Right.
it was all returners. If West, obviously Deion Sanderson was making $6 million and Caleb was making 3, and then Kalen Clark and all these people are return players. So
Right.
they're not like first year people. So
Right.
um, so like the freshmen, they're getting money. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're getting millions, but I'm thinking they're getting at least half a million, maybe 700,000. And for an 18-year-old kid to go from nothing to
Yeah.
$500,000, that's a, and you don't have to pay for nothing. You're just getting the money. Uh, that's a tremendous thing, I think.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't think we've talked about this a number of times, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more come this summer. We had Jay Billis on last summer. I think we'll probably try and have him again just to get a feel for sort of where things are going. I think, there's no question it's going to be really hard to control outside of contracts with players, but how do you feel the game is at? Because I feel like in some level the game is at risk if things stay the way they are. I think probably people are okay with kids getting paid, but having set 4 schools in 4 years is not very conducive to fans sticking. There's sort of the allegiance to your team, and it's sort of just a full free agency is just probably not a really good way of going.
Oh, look, I don't. The NCAA, I would say this: they're going to figure out a way to get their piece of it. It can't be. It will not be where it is now, like you said, where guys are transferring just to transfer. If he's not starting, if he's not getting the minutes or the touches, like I feel like like it has to be some rules and regulations on that, to where like a kid can't transfer twice in the same year, or a kid can't transfer 3 times in 2 years, or
Yeah.
whatever the case is. Like it's gonna be some kind of penalty for that. I think eventually they're gonna cap the money. I think, to where like you can't have a kid making $10 million. I'm not, I don't think somebody's
Yeah,
making
sure.
that. Yeah, but it won't be. It's gonna be a cap, like where okay, you have everybody has $15 million or $12 million or whatever the case is to pay for whatever, all the NIL, and everybody they'll be making a million, maybe two, the highest, but I don't think that like kids will be making that kind of money. I think the transfer thing is going to be way down, and finally that the COVID is over. You won't be seeing 25 and 26-year-olds playing college,
Exactly.
which is always.
Exactly.
I was like, dude, that's unfair.
Right.
It was like, 26 and you're in college. I mean, that's 7, 8 years. That's not what we're here for.
Yeah. People
Like,
have, there's been a lot of knocks on freshmen not being able to make a big impact across the country the last couple of years. But I think a big part of that is exactly what you just said. Look at who they're playing against. They're playing against grown men, and it's a different deal.
Yeah, I give the perfect examples. The guy from Oakland that they beat Kentucky, right? I
Yeah.
think he was 26, 27. I mean,
Oh,
yeah,
the guard.
the shooter.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
like he has. I think he can play overseas. I think he has an overseas career. Maybe a making NBA team. I don't know, but like I think he'll play overseas for 15 years because the way he shoots, right? But I think that's unfair to compare him to a Reed Shepard, or
Right.
like they're 18 years old. He's 8 years older than them. I mean,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? It's like if I'm 20, I'm going against a freshman in high school or whatever.
Right.
Like it's kind of unfair. So like that'll be out finally, and then it'll be um, I think it's going to be interesting. They're going to regulate, like I said, how many times you transfer, and they're going to probably regulate the money. I think so it'll go back to being the old-fashioned illegal way where it used to be. You know what I'm saying? Because now it was just open. But before, like I said, everybody knows. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Everybody knows that players are getting money under the table, but it was like this time it was out and about. But it'll go back to that if they try to cap the money.
Well, I guess we'll wrap it up there. Just a reminder to our listeners to check out Nudge Printing at nudgeprinting.com. You get 20% off your order if you type in Final Four, one word in the coupon code as on checkout. And also, who am I forgetting, Rod? I can't remember who I'm forgetting.
Brothers Who Just Do Gutters.
The Brothers Who Just Do Gutters, yeah. If you need gutter work done, they can take care of it, make sure that water stays off your house, replace, repair, and clean your gutters. Travis Reed, thanks so much for coming. And again, if you want to check out his podcast, it's Bleav on the Bleav Network, Bleav UCLA. And you can, his Instagram, if you're watching YouTube, his Instagram handle is Travis W. Reed. Check out his stuff. And thanks so much for being on it. And welcome to the Big Ten. We expect you're going to have a lot of early days, and we're going to have a lot of late nights.
Well, honestly, I can tell you this. The exciting thing about having a Big Ten is those 12 o'clock games or 10 o'clock in the morning games. Like in the Pac-10, the Pac-12, the games are at 7:30 at night. So you would have to literally be waiting all day to play the game. Where Big Ten is like, oh, game's at 10. All right, 12 o'clock is over. Let's go out. Let's go out and have fun after.
You would tailgate with a brunch. Yeah, you'll
We'll be making breakfast. Breakfast tailgates.
Pancakes. Yeah, exactly. All right. All right. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it. And
thank you very
until
much.
Next...
Anytime you need me to talk some UCLA versus Michigan State, I'm ready.
Absolutely. We'll get at least one game this year, maybe two. We'll see. So until next time, the Final Four is on the schedule. Go Green.